This morning I'm talking about the solar angel and healing. It's been a while since I've talked about the solar angel, so I will be sharing some of the fundamentals about what the solar angel, or who the solar angel is, and some of its names, and then I'll get into talking about the relationship we have with our solar angel and the aspect of healing. So this morning's talk is about the higher self and healing. Now, when I say higher self, this is another term for solar angel. So I want to share the idea that there's more than one term or name for this solar angel, so you don't compartmentalize it or compartmentalize the idea. But to recognize that someday, if you haven't yet, you absolutely will have an experience with your solar angel and come face to face with the solar angel. Sometimes the coming face to face with the solar angel is being bathed in a very intense, luminous white light. Others will say, I've had a conversation, an experience with the solar angel, and it had wings. That's a little religious and based on, early childhood education, I think. But the important thing for you to realize is that it is real. The life of the solar angel is real. It is an entity that has a relationship only with you. There's all kinds of angels in the angelic kingdom, but this particular angel, the solar angel, is one that has been with you in and out of incarnation and knows you well and guides you, and even some people call it their conscience. So we all have a wonderful relationship with the solar angel, whether we call it the solar angel or just guidance. We all have a relationship with the solar angel. Most everyone does. One of the keynotes of having a successful life is to hear the keynote of the higher self. If we want to be healthy, if we want to be successful, if we want to live a life of prosperity, the key to open the mystery of success is to tune into the frequency of your higher self. The higher self is also known as the uppercase soul. Uppercase meaning capital S, soul. So we have the higher self, we have solar angel, and now we have the uppercase soul. The teaching tells us that there are 7 keynotes to the higher self. So these are important to make a notation of these 7 keynotes. And the keynote, how I explain a keynote is through my musical education, that when I would sit down to play the violin, a piece of music, composition that was written by a great composer, it was always written in a particular key note. In other words, a chord. And this particular chord or key note would, like a tapestry, weave itself throughout the entire composition. So the 7 keynotes of the higher self is just like that. They're like notes that we can compose our life around and express through our day-to-day life, express through our thinking life, use as a foundation to our decision-making life. So these 7 keynotes are really important, and recognize that these keynotes are energy systems of our solar angel, aka the higher self. They are beauty, goodness, righteousness, joy, freedom, striving, and sacrificial service. So as we express 1, 2, 3, or all of these 7 keynotes, know that you are igniting and sounding the music of the higher self. During today's talk, I will be using the terms monad, the human soul, the soul. So we have the human soul, we have the monad, we have the human soul, we have the soul, we have the solar angel, and the higher self. Now, what is the monad? The monad is the powerhouse of our human evolution. Some people think of the monad as being an atom or a seed or a spark of fire. But a closer definition of the monad would be to say that it is a wave upon a greater wave. That the monad is a wave upon a greater wave. The monad actually is a wave of a ray, but in human incarnation, it is a short ray or wave with 2 terminals, one at the top of the head and the other at the base of the spine. The terminal is the base of the spine that is understood as the fire which nourishes all the cells of your body. The terminal at the top of the head nourishes the atoms of your higher bodies, and it provides the fire for transmutation of atoms from the lower to the higher, from your lower vehicles to the higher vehicles. It is this fire that purifies and activates and releases and leads the atoms forward to initiate higher functions. So I know if this is new to you, it's like a lot of words and you're trying to juxtapose the words into an image that you can recognize. But the easiest way for me is to share this is you can, set aside the words and think of energy. I was thinking of last Sunday when Val did her talk and she was talking about afterwards how hot she was. This is the fiery energy, the psychic energy that is igniting and moving between those 2 terminals, the base of the spine and the top of the head. So whenever you are engaged in a creative activity and your organs and glands, and particularly the heart nature is really pure, then this energy, this fiery energy, which is stimulated by the higher self, then begins to flow and activate, and you feel hot. Sometimes this is very strange, and scientifically I don't understand it, I just experience it, where you go through this intense fire and then you become like an ice cube. And then you go back to like, oh, it is so hot, and yet it may be 20 degrees outside. But inside you feel like your temperature is 120. All of this has to do with the internal function of the higher self, the solar angel, the activation of light, and the intensity of energy or fire that your solar angel thinks that your human mechanism can handle. But typically, the time it's most active is when you're engaged in some kind of a creative activity. And that creative activity can include the action of healing energy. Now, our human soul is a sleeping spark under the care of our higher self. That's our human soul. The human soul in the teaching is called the jewel in the lotus, which is so beautiful. There's a book written by Torgrim Saradarian called Psyche and Psychism, and there's a chapter in there where he has a diagram that actually puts in form that sleeping spark in this lotus, and at the center of this lotus is like a black dot, and that dot is the seed, which is the sleeping spark. And every time we sound these 7 keynotes, 1, 2, 3, or all 7, it ignites that sleeping spark until one day it begins to awaken. And when it awakens, then this beautiful lotus also begins to awaken and bloom and blossom, and the petals unfold. So you can see this is a whole spiritual, creative process that being on a spiritual path affords opportunities for us to experience. Now, the human soul, this sleeping spark, is called, it's a crystallization of the ray of the monad. The human soul, the sleeping spark, the jewel in the lotus is actually a crystallization of the ray of the monad. Now, unless our human soul is formed, we cannot expect immortality or spiritual identity. There's so much I'd like to share, but there's, where we have time restrictions, but I'm sharing ideas with you that you can make notes of, and then later ask questions or go to the books and the teaching and go to the indexes, or now that we have this wonderful internet Google search, you can take these phrases and put them into Google, and that will share ideas with you, further ideas of the idea that we're talking about today. So like you can put in jewel in the lotus into Google, or you can put in monad and see what Google comes back with, and will show references. So the higher self is a solar angel within and around us. It's an energy that's within and around us. Now, esoteric tradition tells us that millions of years ago, solar angels, the sparks of fire, came down from high places to help infant humanity. They impressed human minds with lofty ideas and vision, leading the human soul to beauty and goodness and truth and harmony. See, the sparks now are they're trying to awaken this sleeping human soul and ignite it with purpose and idea and vision, and especially beauty, goodness, truth, and harmony. So these are elements that are part of the chemistry of your auric body in expression. So when you think harmony, when you feel harmony, when you hear harmony, you're further awakening the unfolding process of your human soul. And that's what beauty does. This is why people today more than ever are becoming increasingly hungry for beauty. We're going to find more artists, I really believe this, as we are approaching the time of the reappearance of the Christ. The preparatory process will be, the readiness process will be the awakening to beauty. And this is going to bring in, between now and the year 2025, 26, 27, unusual artists that are going to ignite this beauty within us. That's beauty and harmony. Goodness and truth follow, or they're part of the fabric of harmony and beauty. So these solar angels, the sparks of divine fire, became the inner guides of infant humanity. We can understand the influence of these inner guides as our conscience, as I mentioned earlier. All we must do is to go into this silence and listen, and you will begin to communicate. You first hear, and then have a dialogue with your solar angel, that inner guidance or conscience. Now, in The Secret Doctrine, this is a book written by Helena Blavatsky, the solar angel is referenced only twice. But Blavatsky also refers to the solar angels as Manasaputras, Manasaputras, Manasaputras. Theosophy also references the solar angel as the silent watcher, the holy guardian angel, and the higher genius. I love higher genius. This is so, it evokes a lot of sense of who we can be. If we have a solar angel, and that solar angel is the higher genius, that means that higher genius is going to educate us. And we're going to become increasingly more intelligent, more beautiful, more full of truth and wisdom. That's our potential. It is also called the angel of presence by the Tibetan DK, and Blavatsky also references the solar angel as sons of wisdom. Real discipleship on the path is not standing wherever we are. It is a tremendous striving and expanding process. That's discipleship. Discipleship is a little different from the ordinary man or woman who is striving to increase their material life. It goes beyond materialism. Discipleship is a balance between spirituality and materialism. The spirit is stronger, but supports and nourishes and provides what is needed in the life of the disciple. Discipleship is a tremendous striving, like I said, and it is an expanding process. And this is why a disciple never stands still, never says, I'm it, I know it, I need to go no further. That's not what we experience as we strive on this path of discipleship. This is an interesting phrase. If something easy is given to us, this is what the teaching says. If something is easy for you, do not accept it. So, for example, if your spiritual teacher gives you something that is really easy, reject it. Because the disciple only learns and grows and expands through challenges, through obstacles, through an increasing light. And if we're given something that is not going to cause us to battle into something greater, then we're wasting our time. So you want something to fight, to battle, to wrestle so that you can grow. Sooner or later you're going to grow. To start now and endeavor and strive to expand your consciousness. So right now, we're going to say, I'm not going to sit here any longer or stand here any longer with this level of consciousness. I'm going to expand myself, and in order to do that, I'm going to create a better, a more clear communication with this genius, this higher genius, and I am going to battle my way through this incarnation. And as I come to the end of this incarnation, I will be full of beauty, I will be truth, I will be harmony, and so forth. Much different than what you were born into. When that light has awakened the human soul, and that light increases, and the sphere of light within the mind, within our mind, expands from the lower mental plane to the fourth level. There's always 7 levels to every plane of consciousness, and the mental plane is where our focus is. So when our light increases, it expands from the lower level, 7, 6, 5th, the lower levels of the mental plane, into the 4th level of the mental plane. When this happens, when this light increases, then our human soul, who was like a nucleus at the bottom, a seed at the bottom of the mental plane, now becomes radioactive, and his light penetrates into this beautiful sphere of light. When these two lights meet, the light increases, and eventually our consciousness becomes a 2-dimensional light. When our consciousness is searching for healing, it finds it in the light of the solar angel, the uppercase soul. The sphere of light in the center of the mental sphere is radiated by the solar angel. So this is why millions of years ago, these beautiful solar angels came and planted this seed of light in our mind, so that we wouldn't remain, for the lack of a better word, Neanderthals and cave dwellers for ad infinitum. So at this point now, the human soul becomes radioactive, and his light penetrates into the sphere of light of the solar angel. The sphere of light in the center of the mental sphere is radiated, like I said, by the solar angel. There comes a point where our human soul radiates the light to this 4th plane, 4th subplane of the mental plane, and now the light of the solar angel and the light of the human soul mix. The human soul, sitting at the bottom of the mental sphere, radiates its light until the 2 lights meet each other in the central sphere of the light of the mental plane. See, if I were an artist, or if I could draw a hologram, you could understand and see it better, but use your imagination. The teaching explains that the day of Brahma, the day of God, is measured in time. The day of God is measured in time. The teaching says if we do not make it in that period, then we are out. We hear people say, if I do not make it in this incarnation, I will make it in the next. But the teachings say this is not true. Such people are playing like monkeys on the path. The tortoise reaches the goal, but the monkey is late, because the monkey says, I have plenty of time and I can play. When such people are late, then they become suspended. And a lot of this is written about in the book called The Secret Doctrine. So if you're interested more, go to Google, you'll find The Secret Doctrine. on one of the websites, and you can look up the day of Brahma, the day of God, and learn more about it. When it says people are late, when we are like monkey-like, then our souls, our human souls, become suspended. They remain asleep in space for millions of years, and they are thrown out from the system for a long time. When they come back, they'll be their former pets. Their former pets will be their teachers. Or animals, other animals will be their teachers. So it is up to each of us to begin to sound the keynotes, these 7 keynotes of the higher self. Listen to the inner guide, our conscience, to make decisions. The duty of the solar angel is to awaken the human soul and make him respond to the vision that the solar angel is holding for him. So what does the solar angel, the higher self, have to do with health? We are told that illness and sickness and disease are fundamentally the result of an inharmonious relationship between our physical, emotional, mental nature and the higher self. That it is fundamentally an inharmonious relationship. I'm participating with a small group of longtime students. We've been reading and discussing a book by the Tibetan called Esoteric Healing. Last week we were discussing the word like, that the personality likes this or doesn't like that. We decided that the word like was a word of the ego. It is the ego which likes or dislikes things. Then someone made such a profound statement. It was an elderly woman, always quiet, never talks, and she just belted out this profound statement that just knocked me off my chair. She said, the higher self, the soul, is all about love, all about harmony. And she said, well, sometimes I find myself slipping in and out of harmony. I just love that. It's so beautiful. Instead of beating herself up, she took a very positive, cute, sweet approach that's very realistic, because we all slip in and out of harmony. In other words, when we step outside of harmony, we are in disharmony with the higher self, with the solar angel. When our physical, emotional, and mental bodies are not in harmony with the vibration or the frequency of the higher self, no matter what you do externally, you will be sick. This is the first law of health. The body lives longer once it is totally fused with the higher self, and the life energy circulates within it. The life energy, the primary energy, the psychic energy circulates within it without any hindrances and frictions. This is not easy, of course, for we have had many, many lives behind us in which we lived a life that was not in harmony with the soul. And so for ages we created causes for disease and sickness. But this does not mean, this is the good news, this does not mean that we cannot minimize these causes and eventually have a healthy body. So the secret of health is to strive toward the higher self. Express those 7 key notes in any way that you can, and tune to the frequency of your soul until the body radiates out the life of the soul. As you try to synchronize yourself with the soul, you will notice that year after year, life after life, your health is improving. because you are bringing yourself under the control of your soul's light, love, and energy. You are the human soul, the real essence, the self. You are the evolutionary arc, which means you are going towards unity, towards organization, towards spiritualization, towards synthesis, and of course beauty. This means now, as a disciple, you are on the path of fusion with the spirit of the universe. But here's an important point to remember. Your physical, emotional, mental atoms or elementals are at the point of transition, transitioning from the involutionary arc to the evolutionary arc. And thus it is the human soul, now not the solar angel, but the human soul who must assist these bodies to make the transition from involution to evolution. Just like our solar angel tries to do the same for the human being. This is not an easy labor for the human soul because of the age-long tendencies of the elementals toward involution, and these elementals create conflict between them and the human soul. The tiny lives of the bodies, these tiny lives of the bodies, have the tendency to look back. And this is why the teaching says, don't look back. And the older you get, the easier it is to look back. I can attest to it. And each time I learn, no, this is not good. Whether you've been really successful or whether you have regrets, don't go to the past, because then you're opening the doorway, reopening the doorway to these little tiny lives that say, come on, let's go back to evolution. The elementals want to take charge over the human soul and prevent that fusion from taking place with the higher self. So this is why we have to fight and strive and not ever accept where we are right now. We attracted these tiny lives of the bodies when our spirit was descending. But as time has passed, the direction changed now toward evolution. And now all the lives are under the pressure of the evolutionary arc. As we sublimate these three vehicles, we call them, the physical, emotional, lower mental body, as we sublimate them, our health improves. But if the vehicles carry us down with their involutionary direction, we will have more pain and suffering. There comes a time when the disciple gradually reverses the process of healing. Now, instead of trying to heal the personality vehicles, they're working on their soul. And through their soul, try to create harmony and beauty in their vehicles. Talking about the human soul. Trying to create harmony and beauty in their vehicles of manifestation. So what does it mean to work on your soul? It means to take the emphasis off of your vehicles and strive to radiate light. It doesn't mean not to take care of yourself. We already have that established. We have to take care of our health. And the taking care of our health, I'm not talking about having a bathroom cabinet full of pharmaceutical drugs. I'm talking about evolutionary supplements that will manifest and energize these three vehicles, the physical, etheric, especially the etheric, emotional, and mental bodies. And at the same time, now, as we're moving ahead, striving to radiate light, love, and bliss. This is done by trying to live a life of virtue. So that's where our focus is now, is on virtue, meditation, sacrificial service, under the inspiration of your solar angel. The first step toward this accomplishment is to expand your consciousness and make it more inclusive. The second is to try to transmute, transform, transfigure your personality through spiritual thinking and living. Spiritual thinking is starts with, studying the words of the teaching. Starts with meditation, then advances into contemplation. And this is a process that energizes us in such a way that we become increasingly creative. So as we go through transmutation, transformation, transfiguration, we become increasingly creative. And through this creative activity that's taking place between the resonance of the human soul and the radiance of the light of the higher self, now we're controlling our physical, emotional, mental nature. We're controlling it. And we've sublimated these three bodies, vehicles, and they have become transformed now under the light of your expanded consciousness. I suggest you get this YouTube and listen to it again. I'm throwing so much out here, and I'm probably not going to get to the end. But that's okay. We have a lot to think about. The thing is that our physical, emotional body, mental bodies do not like to be controlled. Just like, don't tell me what to do, I already know what to do. That's one of our little elementals, shouting through the personality. The physical, emotional, mental bodies do not like to be controlled. They want to react against any effort to control them. This is why there's 3 million diets out there. Because the first diet we got tired of, it didn't work. The next diet we tried again, didn't work. All these addictions that we have, and for some reason just didn't work, was because the physical, emotional, mental body is saying, don't control me. I'm in charge. These elementals say, don't control me. I'm in charge. But as you strive towards spiritual realization, you eventually will take them under your control and change their direction towards spiritualization. All disease, all illness is the result of the hindrances in the vehicles where the circulation of the energy of life or spirit has stopped or created friction. So I'm going to have to end here. And let me just end with this one sentence. If you have 1 minute, just 1 minute of contact with your soul, you will be changed. Just 1 minute of contact. So you want to create an environment, inner environment, an outer environment. And the way you create this environment is through the use of these 7 key notes that I talked about. And now you have an environment made of these 7 key notes, which puts you in complete harmony with the higher self. And you will see you become changed. And you take that change with you throughout the rest of your life, throughout the rest of your incarnations. Isn't that not beautiful?